Hey guys, it's Ryan coming at you from Oregon. It is March 6, 2023, and today's topic we're going to be talking about how to decide if it's time to quit your job, some practical tips and strategies. So this is going to be a very interesting one. I've been in the recruiting industry for over 10 years. I've been a recruiting consultant and a career consultant for different people. So this is a very one that strikes heart, and I know a lot of people, they talked about in the last video, 80% of people are, not satisfied with their work. So it's a big topic on a lot of people's minds. The market continues to fluctuate. A lot of people are wondering, with inflation, different things, if they should quit, if they should move on, as well as like their happiness factor, is the passion there? What should I do? So if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like, what should I do? This is a good video, and I hope it's very, very clear for a lot of ones. So I thought I would start with some different statistics that I think might be very useful to know, right? In terms of the boss's perspective, right? The boss wants to retain you, okay? The boss wants to keep good talent. And if you're a boss yourself, you should be investing in your people big time, right? There's an old saying, build the people and the people will build the business. So it costs an employer an average of 20 to 200% of that person's salary just to replace them. It's significantly harder. If anybody's ever watched The Office, there's an infamous scene where Ryan and Michael are talking, and Michael answers it the wrong way, where it's like almost 10 times more expensive to replace an employee than to retain that employee. So they want to keep you, okay? So that's from their perspective. Now, here's another interesting one. 69% of people disengage from work. They just stop caring. A lot of us kind of go through the motions, and then they kind of like disengage mentally, and we just, they're on autopilot, right? And a job, which stands for a lot of people, just over broke, it's enough to keep them in the game, but not enough to make them quit. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And here's the other thing. So before you quit, and you should never rage quit. You should never try to quit on a whim. I had a friend call me on Friday that was like totally telling me like, I'm done with this. I'm ready to leave. Screw this guy. This is a friend of mine, and I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you quit, it's so much harder to find a job if you're unemployed. It's not impossible. There's definitely ways. And sometimes that happens when you're laid off. Like, you have to kind of face that. But if you can, ideally, try to look for a job while you're already in your job. First off, it takes an average of 3 to 6 months to find a new job, okay? A lot of people think they can find a job instantly. Yes, there are jobs out there that you can get hired in a few days. Doesn't mean it's always the good fit. Like, a good fitting job on average is going to take you 3 to 6 months, all right? Something that you're going to actually have happiness. I understand if you need to make money right away, that's one thing. But if you're looking for something that it's going to really be worthwhile to you, you should consider your timeline of 3 to 6 months, right? If employers are 4 times more likely to respond to resumes that are currently employed, they are 2 times more likely to give an interview to that person, and they're 3 times more likely to extend an offer to that person who's currently employed. Okay, so if you're unemployed and you're looking for a job because you rage quit, right, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and it's a lot harder. Okay, so try to always make sure that you're currently employed now. And then the first thing is you want to make sure you first really look at the job, take an inventory, right? Is it the job? Is it really the job, or is it something about the job, or is it yourself, something you're unhappy about? You have to uncover really what's going on. And a good question to ask is why? Ask yourself why. Why do you want a different job? Okay? Start digging and keep asking yourself why. And I would really recommend pausing at this video, get a sheet of paper, writing stuff down. Why do I want a new job? Right? What is the real reason? And then start designing first the job you're at. Okay? Design the job first take an inventory of things, tasks, responsibilities about the job that you love or you hate. The easiest thing you could do to yourself is to first redesign or create the job that you want within the company you're already at. Okay, so looking, and I've actually done this in companies. There's entrepreneurs, and there's entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur is building, a business that way. An entrepreneur is building something from the inside out already in a company. Say there's a department, and you look at a bunch of your competitors, and they all have this one department. And a good example of this is in Mad Men, where the guy became the head of kind of like their media division, and they're like, "Why? How did you do this so fast? How did you get promoted so fast?" And he's like, "I just looked at like all the other competitors that had a media department, told them that we needed a media department, and then he became the head of the media department." Okay, and then a year later, he was matching everybody else with the same salaries as the director level and the executive level. So being an entrepreneur is taking initiative, being creative, looking at it from an engineer's focus on how you could redesign your current job and your position in order to be exactly where you want to be. So looking at, being vocal with your employer, telling them where you want to end up in 2 to 5 years, and start demonstrating those skill sets. Or you can also look at kind of your competitor. Hey, our competitors are doing something a certain way. We're lacking. This is what I can do this. I can take this approach and this responsibility. Let me take charge of this project. Okay? And it's something that you want to do. So being creative that way, you don't always have to just quit right away and look for something else. Make sure you've exhausted all potential possibilities in the role you're in. But you also need to know where you're at and where you want to go. Okay, so key things there. Don't quit on emotion. Okay, you're much better off if you're looking for a job while you're currently employed. Second thing is also look at entrepreneurial opportunities. Look at ways that you can actually get to where you want to be within the company and using that as your vehicle to success. Okay, let's actually talk about quitting now. Okay, if you actually are like, all right, actually I'm done, just things aren't working for me, how should I quit? Okay. So we talked about, you want to make sure you take a skill set audit. You want to make sure you take a job audit. And the difference is knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing what all your strengths are, all your weaknesses are, what skill sets you have. Make a list and inventory. Write it on paper. And also with jobs. What jobs have you done in the past that you loved? What jobs are you doing right now, or the tasks and responsibilities in the job you do that you love? Ones you don't love. Which ones do you want to do that you love? What is the combination mix that works for you? Now, the best way that you can do, a lot of people have reported that they have they've have 6 times more engagement, as well as 3 times more quality of life when they're playing to their strengths. They are doing something that they love as well as something that they're good at. So you need to be aware of that and find that balance on something. What is like something that you have natural talent at that you want to learn more of, right? And you actually want to embrace and use it to, create some kind of income from it. So the key thing here is being self-aware. You have to be aware of this stuff. You have to be aware of your strengths and weaknesses, okay? The other thing is impact. When you're starting to look for a certain job, you want to make sure that you know their mission and core values, right? What is the impact that they're having? The best way that you can also be more satisfied in your work and when you start shopping for a company is if your values are aligned. Is this company going to take me where I want to be? Is the amount of time and energy I'm going to put into it going to be a return on investment for myself? Not just monetarily, but also the impact you have, whether it be your quality of life or key skill sets that you're going to learn. So you need to be asking those questions to yourself. You don't, you necessarily put them in an interview. And if you guys want interview tips, you can reach out to me. I do consulting, I do mock interviews, but also there's other videos on this channel that I've talked about this step on how to find a new job, as well as like how to do your resume, how to do the interview, how to get the offer. Okay, so definitely check those out too. But when you're quitting, you want to make sure you take an audit when you start the shopping process. Okay, now here's where it comes into network. You have to start networking, and you want to network now. Okay, especially if it takes 3 to 6 months to find the appropriate job. Start networking now. Look at key decision holders or look at companies that are growing. The best ones are the ones that have like about, they've been around for over 5 years. Okay, because 80%, 90% of businesses fail within 2 years. So I'm not saying don't go after startups. If it really like resonates with you and you're like, I want to do this, go for it. But on a rule of thumb, look for ones that have been around for at least 5 years, that have over 50 employees. Those are the best ones that you can actually kind of grow the fastest in. Okay, so this is just a general ideal scene. Use your best intuition here though too. And you want to start networking with those companies. Make a list of 200 companies. If you can't think of 200, think of 50 in an industry that you know is growing, that you want to be in. Okay, then look at key decision holders. LinkedIn's a great resource. You look on LinkedIn, you look at the CEO, CFO, whoever's the department head on certain areas, departments you want to be in, and start networking with them. Reach out to them. Okay, ask for an informational interview. You're not looking for a job. You're just trying to get information, and you be creative. You be curious. You start asking them a little bit like, hey, I see you're working at this company. I have a lot of interest in learning more about your industry and kind of that area of expertise. Do you have 10 minutes that I can just, pick your brain? Is that all right? If they're local, ideally you also do this locally. Now there's local, domestic, and international. So if it's domestic or international, LinkedIn them, give them a call, do a Zoom meeting for like 10 minutes. If it's a local, the best thing, I would just, hey, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee, and if you have any tips on your industry, would love to hear about them. And just a friendly, and just make that contact. Make that contact. And especially if it's an industry you want to be in, the more contacts, your network and your reputation are assets. So if you have that contact, that could be a reference point for you to, down the road. You never know where relationships are going to go in the world. There's a lot of times where I thought some person I just met, and then 2-3 years later, some crazy stories have happened where actually they'll invite me to this speaking engagement, and I got a 2-week free vacation. It's a true story, actually. And so you definitely want to do that and start building your pipeline. Ideally, you want 50 to 200 companies in an industry, in an area that excites you, that you have a goal or a strength in. And you just start networking with those key decision people, or people that are going to be kind of successful down the road too. And you're building that pipeline. Doesn't mean you're looking for a job. You're really just, gaining education. But because of that, did you know that companies are 90% more likely to hire somebody who's a referral? That person is now a contact in that company. So if a job comes up down the road, he's like, hey, I saw you guys had a job. I'm very interested. I don't know if I'd be the best person, but if you could forward my resume and maybe write a little intro, that would be very great. If you do that, you're very, very way better off than the average amount of people. And the other thing is too, that only the job boards only report 20% of the job market. 80% of the job market is outside, it's internal. You don't even see it. So now if you have a contact, they're going to tell you the other 80% if you're a good fit. And I have friends who will tell me about job opportunities here and there randomly. I think you're good. I don't say yes to everything, but it's very just you're a good fit for this. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And we haven't even announced it. Wanted to let you know before anybody else did. So having that insider information is very, very key. The other thing with job applications, 200 job, the average job board, the other average job ad gets over 200 job applications. Okay. So think about that. You're going up against 200 people. And it's really a shame. I used to work career fairs as a recruiter, and you get all these resumes, and guess what? I get 1,000 resumes and they all look exactly the same. So you got to stand out in some way. The best way for you to stand out is be a referral. It's the best way you can do it. So be a referral. That way you have the inside information and network. Okay? The other key thing, leave the job better than before. This is the same thing as adding value. You want to make sure you're leaving some value, you're leaving something behind. You don't burn bridges. You leave the company better than you allowed it. There's a great company, cybersecurity company that I used to work for in San Diego for years. I believe I left it better than I originally when I got hired. They didn't have a recruiting department. I built the entire recruiting department, and I had about 8 recruiters working under me from the starting. It's a long story, but long story short, I was the first recruiter. I built the whole recruiting department, became like the talent manager / talent director, had 8 recruiters working under me. And when I left, for the right reasons, I got some better offers. And I just felt like it was my next stage personally. And I've been there for years. And I'm still good friends with the CEO and the VP and the program manager. So everybody who is up above me, as well as people around me, they still contact me from time to time. The owners still contact me, but here's the thing. I set up my replacement. I let them know far in advance, like, hey, I think it's my time. I'm ready to move. I'm going to be moving on to a different project, right? But I'm going to definitely leave them in a better place. I documented everything, created the right systems, and I made sure to hire somebody that I thought could get the job done. And I made sure to train that person. I left the company in a better spot, and I set up my replacement for success. Now, this is right out of actually I just did a book review recently on the designing your work life. This is right out of it. It's something I knew, but it's very articulate in that and communicate well in that book. So definitely check it out. But you want to make sure you're first networking, you're exhausting all possibilities. If you're leaving a job, you leave it on the right circumstances. You give proper notification. You find a replacement that it leaves your company in good standing, and you set up that next person for success, and you exit well. Okay, this is very significant. I just bought, I recently have a house, and I did not realize that they need to contact a lot of your ex-employers. So something to consider. I'm very lucky that I've exited well from other employments. No problems. They were able to contact everything. But you also just don't know where relationships go. I've also had ex-employers recommend me for other jobs years later. So, or ex-colleagues recommending me for years later, or somebody who moved to a different company and they're like, I want to work with Ryan again. So think about stuff like that. A long enough timeline. Give yourself a little bit more bandwidth on where relationships can go. And so, overall, don't always rage quit or just think like you first design the job you're in to see if you can get, it might be right in front of you. You might have to just tweak a few things. First, exhaust all possibilities. Second, network. Third, if you're going to quit, make sure you do it the right way. Okay? Leave it better than you found it. Still keep those relationships, follow up with them from time to time. Okay? Keep them informed of what's going on. And also, have you changed? There's many times I was a recruiter, somebody would leave the company and they were really good. They got better at another company. They increased their skill sets and their value, and then they were hired back to the original company at at double the salary. I can think of 5 times that's at least happened. So I hope this was very, very helpful. If you're looking also, I do free resume reviews. Feel free to send me your resume. I include my contact details below. If you'd love to ask a question, feel free to send me a message. I do have some free resume templates that I use, especially in the tech space. I'll include the link there. And if you want some more information, I do consulting work. So if you're looking for a mock interview, if you want to prepare for kind of your next career, feel free to reach out as well. Okay? Hope this was helpful. I really do want people to get better jobs and increase their quality of life, and kind of how to navigate it, because it's something that, I've been in this industry a long time, and I do enjoy when somebody gets the job that they love and it's such a better thing. It's very, very rewarding for me. So feel free to message me if you need some help. I do my best. Some people will send me a message on the weekends. I usually respond Mondays because I do have a life. So just be aware of that, but I'm always here to help, and I'm happy to help in any way, shape, or form. All right, guys. Have a good one. Cheers.